Okay, good afternoon. We'll get going in just a second. The this mask thing is getting a little crazy, and I've already said in past podcasts my view on the mask. Like most kids don't care. I fought a few months back to get kids back to school, and I think when they reopened, I think if we had told those kids they had to be in hazmat suits, they would have gone. There's a serious issue with having kids separated for that long. What I'm seeing, somebody sent me a letter today that was sent to all the Board of Ed members. And, I could be hard on these people. I could be hard on Hamlin. I could be hard on Board of Ed members. And I think we should be. I think it's our role as parents or press or whatever it is to be critical of people who are in power and are making key decisions. But sometimes it just gets ridiculous. And this letter was just insulting to everybody. I'm going to pull this up. And I got a copy of this. And today's podcast will be about happier stuff. Like I literally want to talk about Tweed and the best meatballs in town. That's the conversation I want to have. But this person sent me, and it starts off fairly nice. I hope you have a nice day. Basically, Ned Lamont's an idiot. He lacks true leadership. And then it just goes into the lack of leadership by Hamlet Hernandez. It's disgusting. Here's the deal. It's very hard to measure how good somebody did during COVID because we've never been there before. We have nothing to judge them on. If we want to look at how Biden's doing in withdrawal in the war, we can look at other things in history. If we want to look at how, negative times are handled or positive times are handled, we can compare those to other issues and how those were handled. It's very difficult to look at COVID and say it was handled well or not. That said, I think Ned Lamont's done a very good job. There's some things I have issues with, but in general, he's done a very good job. Hamlet, and I have said this before, you have to give him a wide berth because he didn't know the answers either. Yes, he's difficult to work with. Yes, my theory is he makes everything longer than it has to take for no apparent reason. And there were times he could have been more reasonable, but you're in a difficult situation. And so for somebody to send a letter saying the last 2 years, I gotta tell you something, whether you agree or not with decisions Hamlet's made, it's been hell the last 2 years. Whether you agree or not with the Board of Ed and the decisions they made, it's been hell the last 2 years. They're hearing from parents like crazy, and the parents are mixed. Even when I was pushing to reopen schools, I heard from many parents who made compelling arguments why they didn't want to go back to school. And thankfully, they had that option at that time. But to send, and this is a gentleman who got up at meetings and basically said, I'm not threatening you, but to send letters like this, and I said this last week about John Prinz, there's a letter written that was pretty nasty at parts about John Prinz and soon you're going to be gone and that sort of thing. You're going to work with these people still. Whether Hamlet Hernandez's contract is extended or not, you're still going to work with him the next couple of years. Whether, no matter what happens, if John Prinz is the chairman or not, you're still going to work with him the next couple of years. We gain nothing by being nasty. If we want to talk critically of a particular decision, how one particular thing is handled, fine. But these are, here's a letter, what is written. Hamlet Hernandez has 2 years left on his contract. Cut your losses and find someone else. Stop being sheep. Be the leaders Branford deserves and expects. Find a superintendent willing to put our children first and not his or her ego, politics, or bureaucracy. I'm going to tell you this. As critical as I've been of Hamlet at times, I don't want anybody to ever mistake that for thinking he doesn't care about kids. Like, people don't go into education because they don't care about kids. I mean, they care. They want to do well. You could disagree with how it's handled. You could disagree with the personality. You could disagree with the manner things are done. But I'm never going to insinuate that somebody doesn't care about kids. I'm never going to say John Prinz doesn't care about kids. So letters like this are counterproductive. And at this point, the issue of this person is mad about masks, kids wearing the masks. And Lamont has already said, we want masks. The president got on TV the other day and said, we want masks. And anybody who does steps to punish, no funding if you have masks, what have you in some states, will take, there'll be repercussions for that. Whether there's legal ability to do so or not is another question. But you're going to have masks. At some point, you fight your fight and you accept defeat and you move on. That's it. That's how it works. We talked about this with the Parkside thing. Parkside, you went through the legal process. You had, lawyers involved. You went to meetings. You protested, what have you. But to still be nasty and awful and what have you after that, it's done. You lost. It happens. We've all lost some. We all won some. That's life. At some point, you have to say, what is the purpose of just being nasty for the sake of being nasty? And I deal with it. I get these emails. I get these messages. I posted one the other day that was disgusting that people send. And Board of Ed members get this too. It's inappropriate. It doesn't need to be part of the conversation. We can have real conversations about difficult topics. And on this podcast, we talk about school and kids and masks and reopening. We talk about race and CRT and that sort of thing without being nasty, without being disgusting. And sometimes there's just groups of people that can't help themselves but jump into that. But let's go on to some happier stuff. And, today, I think it came out last night, but today, Sean Scanlon, who's the director of Tweed Airport, we've had him on before, announced the forest towns that will be getting, actually, I don't have that, they're all in Florida, will be getting direct flights. And the idea of a direct flight, so I worked at Tweed Airport when I was like 19 or 20, and we had flights to DC and Philly. They were US Air's hubs. A lot has changed now. So you're going to have, let me pull this up because I posted this earlier on Brantford 7. And you'll have 4 towns: Tampa, Fort Lauderdale, Fort Myers, so basically Naples, and Orlando. So that's a massive, massive announcement. That is a huge announcement for the area. Now, the only kind of downside of this is that, part of the expansion of the airport is really about economic development. So this is ease of use. Everybody who wants to jump on a cruise ship, everybody wants to go down to Florida. This is great. This is wonderful. They're running, some are 2 times a week, some are 5 times a week, what have you. On small planes, it's a small carrier. They're cheap flights, but remember, these types of flights also have a lot of extra fees. So while the flight itself might be $100, you have bag fees and things like that. So remember that. But the only thing that I was a little bit disappointed in was we didn't have business like DC or Chicago. Now, I'm sure that's hopefully in the works. From an economic development standpoint, we want those types of towns. Florida is not a huge, economic boost from helping our pharma companies and helping Yale and those sort of things. But this is really, really good news. And I'm going to take, when Sean Scanlon was first given that position, it's not a very high paying, it was about $100,000 a year. He's our state rep. That's a part-time job. I forgot what they're paid, but it's a part-time position. And there was an article in the Current that was very critical of basically they just handed this to him because he's a politician and he got it because we knew, and he has no skill or ability to run an airport. And, I wrote an article after that, and I could probably find, if you look up Brantford 7, probably find, let me take a look here. Search, I'll do Scanlon Tweed. Yeah, and I wrote this June 28th, 2021. And that's updated. So the original date wasn't that. October 25th, 2019, when he was hired, I said why Tweed Scanlon hire was the right one. And this is after, in the Hartford Current, Kevin Rennie wrote just trashing it. And the title of that article was Connecticut, where connections matter more than qualifications. And my retort to that was, first of all, we have a management company for the airport. What we wanted Scanlon was for the connections. Scanlon used to work for Chris Murphy. If you have to get into an airline or talk to the head of an airline, the ability to have Murphy, Blumenthal, U.S. congressmen that can get in for you, those connections are what was valuable. That's what makes it happen. Knowing that he is political and can make things happen in Hartford is valuable. For a small airline that ended up coming in, those connections are valuable. So it was very easy to jump on the bumper sticker kind of politics of, oh, this is awful. It's just handing a politician a position and it's just a handout. But the truth of the matter is Sean Scanlon is the right person to have there. Now, while this airline is coming, his job is far from done. This requires not just the current terminal, but taking the terminal there and going over to East Haven. That will require all his political skill as well. Because we're in election season, East Haven this has become an election issue. So they have some decisions to make, and Sean has his job. But I would much rather have somebody that has the connections that Sean has to be able to push that through. And there is a little bit of I told you so here, because my response was to a Kevin Rennie article, but Sean has ended up being the right person. He's helped get a new airline in there. And this is not a new airline. They exist on the West Coast as well. But we now have flights direct from Branford, New Haven, Connecticut. So we are 10 minutes away. If you've ever gone to Tweed, you can park your car and walk there in about, 10 seconds. That's right there. Jump on a plane. You want to go for a weekend in Florida, you can. And that's a really, really good thing. And it's a benefit to the area. I think Sean did a really good job. It bothers me when we see that knee-jerk reaction, the bumper stickers. Oh, look how corrupt it is. Somebody's just getting it because they're elected official, just getting it because they're connected. No, they're getting it because they have the connections to get those things done. That's what matters. And there's a lot of regulatory things to go through. There's political things to go through. There's money to get. And he's done a very good job so far doing that. I think the next step is obviously getting it through East Haven, getting the new terminal. And then the next step for me is to get flights to economic development towns, the Chicagos of the world, where business is done. And Orlando is not that town. So I think that job from a flight standpoint still has to be done. DC, Chicago, Philly, maybe Charlotte, those types of towns were more business. I mean, Charlotte's a big one because biotech is significant in Charlotte and in New Haven. So the job's not done. But so far, what we've seen is that he's had the qualifications and the connections to get an airline here, get a massive investment from Goldman Sachs, what looks like it's coming. Now he has to get that through East Haven, New Haven, and get more flights in there. So I think he's done a really good job. And the reaction, just looking at the comments, some people said they went on, the airline is called Avelo, Avelo. Is that correct? And you can make your reservations now. So I'm not sure. Yeah, there are people literally saying they made their reservations this morning and the reservation system was live. So you can make, starting in November, or starting today, you can reserve it, but starting in November, flights will go out of Tweed to Florida. And there is a flight for the press. I don't know that I am in a hurry to do that, but the idea of just flying for a couple hours for no apparent reason isn't really appealing to me. But I don't know. Maybe they have really good internet. We could do a podcast from the air or something like that. But in any event, this is big news. It's significant for the area. And if the prices are low, I mean, listen, if you're not taking any bags and you're just jumping on and getting a hotel room for the night, a couple $100 to go down to Florida for a day or two isn't so bad. Doesn't seem crazy to me. Okay. Flights are super cheap, $60 in December to go to Orlando. Yeah, just remember, and I did this and somebody posted this as well. They're one of those airlines that it's super cheap, but then they have fees that they put on. So for bags or what have you. So if you're going as a family, you may want to figure out what that cost you to do without just the cost of the flight. There may be other charges on top of that. Remember. So there's always two ways to go about it. You can say everything's included and charge you $300 for a flight, or you can say we're going to charge you a really base price and then charge you more for more stuff. I actually think that's more fair. People call it add-ons and nickel and diming, but I think it's a more fair process. If I'm a business traveler and all I have is my briefcase, why am I paying for the weight of 3 or 4, suitcases for people that are going to Disney? So that kind of makes sense. It's a small carrier. Remember, this is not a giant airline, so they're going to operate a little differently. But I think it's a spectacular move, and it's really good to see. And it's helpful for the Branford area. I mean, think about it. If you want to bring business to an area, or you just want to increase property values and say, we want you to move here. One of the biggest complaints I've always heard about Branford, some of them we've addressed, right? Walsh Intermediate School was the biggest complaint. From every real estate agent on the planet would tell you Walsh was a problem. Solve that. The next one was there's not significant shopping here. Now, that's true. You have to go over the Q Bridge. One of the reasons everybody wanted Costco so badly. Some of that has changed because in the last 10 years, everything has changed to online shopping. But yes, it's still true. If you're going to go significant school shopping, you're probably going to leave Brantford to do it. And the second one is look how quickly you can jump on a plane. That's a significant thing. Does it make sense if you're moving to the middle of nowhere versus somewhere where you're 10, 15 minutes away from an airport, but you can jump on a plane and go to Florida? I think that's a significant factor. And so that could be helpful from a property value standpoint. We still need to get flights in here that are helpful from an economic development standpoint when it comes to business. And we need to connect to towns that, because none of the towns are going to are hubs. So at some point that would have to, be arranged. Add more flights either from them or another carrier to come in. And that's part of what Scanlon is trying to do by increasing the size of the terminal. Okay, let's get to the most important issue we're going to talk about today. And this is vital. And I posted this on Brantford 7, August 17th, 2 nights ago at 8:23. It was a very simple question. And it was, what restaurant has the best meatballs in Brantford? So I had posted once about pizza, which you probably should do again. So, and here's what prompted that post. So a restaurant a lot of people forget about is called Colin Daisy's, and it's up where Humphreys was before. It's up off exit 56. And I was there, sat and ate outside, relaxed for a little while, had a pizza, and had meatballs. And I didn't eat the meatballs there. I had some pizza there, came home, and I was doing some work, and I put my fork in this meatball, and I'm going to tell you something. It may be the single most tender meatball I've ever eaten. Like, the fork didn't have resistance kind of thing. Like, what the hell? Like, it was amazing. Now, some people don't like that, but I happen to be like, wow, just kind of blown away by it. And so I posted this very simple question. What is the best meatball in Brantford? We've got 100 different comments on it. And so Colin Daisy's came up a couple of times, and I'm surprised because Colin Daisy's is a location that people forget it's there. It's very good, worth going. Pizza's good. The meatballs are phenomenal. No question about that. Yes, they are still open. They're not, the inside's not open as a restaurant, but they have a big tent outside. You can get your pizza and eat outside. They'll bring it to you if you want. I think that's how I'm going to leave it for now. So basically take out, but there's an eating area there if you want to eat there. But people forget about it. So the same thing used to happen with Grace's Kitchen, which is now Arturo's Kitchen. People forgot about it. Over time, people realized that it's good and they're worth going to. It's worth going just for the meatballs. Everything else is up to you, but the meatballs are spectacular. But then there's some, so I asked this question, Pasta Cozy. I don't remember ever having Pasta Cozy's meatballs. I've been there many times, but many people said, and this is, I feel bad saying this too, I've never had, and people, maybe it's just Indian Neck, but Indian Neck Pizza's meatballs, I never would have thought to go there for meatballs. So I have to start doing some sort of meatball tour. Just reading some of these comments. Cafe Fiore, I think I have had them. I think they're good. I don't remember thinking like it was like Colin Daisy's. I don't remember thinking, wow. So I'm reading some of these comments here. I do agree. Rosalvino's very good. No question. A little bit more dense, a little bit different type. So this may be just personal preference, what you prefer or don't. And then home. People mention home. Now, I've never had meatballs at home. Here's my home theory. And this is where I don't understand any other restaurateur who's ever gone to home, the restaurant. I always get the same thing when I go there. I get the patty melt and fries. And the patty melt's like the single greatest thing you're going to put in your mouth. Like, it's holy shit good. It's amazing. But here's the deal with their fries. They serve fries with 3 different dipping sauces. And it comes out, and every fry now is a decision. Every fry you pick up, so that tendency to like put the fries from McDonald's in the car and you're just eating them mindlessly. Now it's everyone, there's some, aioli on this, some barbecue something, some other aioli that they've made, and it changes on a regular basis. And I say every fry now is a decision. And they're amazing. And I can't figure out, there's 2 things in life in restaurants I can't figure out. Why anybody who serves bread prior to the meal coming doesn't serve it warm. Like, I'll never understand why somebody can't take that basket, put it on the oven for about 3 minutes, and then serve it. I'll never understand that. Why do you ever serve room temperature or cold bread? I have no idea. The second one is this. If you've had Holmes fries, why aren't you doing that too? It takes nothing to make 3 different of these aiolis or whatever, mayonnaise or whatever sauce you wanted to make. I can't figure out why other restaurants don't do this. It's a no-brainer. And we always get ketchup with our fries, but there's a million other options, and you make it 10 times better. And if you haven't had the patty melt at home, leave here, turn off the podcast, go to home, have the patty melt, then come back, and on Monday we'll talk about it, because it's the best. It's just, it just is. Even being good and trying to eat well, every once in a while I have to cheat and get those things. But from meatball standpoint, so I think what we're going to do is I'm going to create a poll and put it on Brantford 7 and allow people to vote. And people are adamant. Home, Rosso Vino, Serious Subs, that was years and years ago. Somebody said someplace from North Haven. Rocco's in Guilford. I don't know what Rocco's in Guilford is, but I guess I would try that. Somebody posted La Cucina. I guess it would be takeout, but I would try that. Somebody posted Honey Spot Pizza. No, don't do that. No, that wasn't right. That was inappropriate. You should no, that wasn't right. Tommy Sullivan's. I never had meatballs at Tommy Sullivan's, but everything really at Tommy Sullivan's is actually pretty good. Tommy Sullivan's is probably the best value from a food standpoint you're going to find, because it's really good and underpriced. Pasilio's, I never had their. I could try them. P&M Deli. Let's see here. And then you have the classic answer. I can't answer this because I can't eat anyone's but my mother's. Well, that's kind of true of everybody, but it is what it is. But I do have a lot of Indian egg pizzas here, and I think what we'll do is we'll create a poll, we'll allow people to vote, and then maybe we'll do a podcast from where the winner is and try some meatballs. Politics and meatballs goes well together, so that could be pretty interesting. But Cole and Daisy's is absolutely very good. It's a high bar to have to hit, in my opinion, if you like very, very tender meatballs. They kind of fall apart on you. So they're really, really good. The burger at home. Yeah, I mean, I always get the patty melt. I'm not kidding. I'm like, I walk in and don't look at the menu, like the patty melt. And remember the night that we had the shooting here in town, I was on camera for 3 hours or 4 hours. I was dead. I had nothing left. And we decided to call a friend and went over to home and didn't even need the menu. Just bring me the patty melt and the fries, because that's all. At that moment, when you have a bad day or you're having a rough time, patty melt and fries works. It's patty melt and fries, and home just is amazing. So, okay, meatball taste-off I think is a good idea. I think I'll start a poll. We'll get it up in the next day or two. Get your votes in, tell your places to vote, all that kind of stuff. And we'll take the top 2 or 3 and we'll try them. We'll go to those places, try them, talk to the owners, and see if they'll sneak us some of their favorite recipes or what have you. But okay, easy podcast today, nothing earth-shattering, but just really good to see that expansion of Tweed. Let's hope it can pass the votes it has to. It'll clearly pass New Haven. I don't think that's going to be a problem. East Haven, what's happened is you have some people. Look, every town has a group of people. It's a small group who are either critical or against everything. So I don't know if it's it could be a personal issue with them. It could be a vendetta they have against somebody. It could be whatever, but they're there and there's always complaining, right? There's always, this is wrong and this is wrong. There's always keywords. There's always buzzwords like, things are done, illegal meetings, and there's everything's behind closed doors, and there's secret this, and then there's a lack of transparency. And you hear the same words. Every town has this group of people. It could be one person. It could be 20 people. It's usually a small group. And then come election season, they basically have increased influence because those running for office have to respond to it. So there's a group in East Haven, there's groups in Guilford, there's a group they're in every town. But they always exist. They're on social media. They yell and scream, and many people ignore it. Some people jump in. People who may not know what's going on may jump in. And then election season, everybody who's on the ballot is going to take a side. They want those votes. And so we kind of saw this, we're seeing this a little bit in Brantford. It's unfortunate, but that group that was against Parkside. And there were a lot of people who were against Parkside. I was against Parkside. But then there's the people who were against Parkside and were nasty, like at meetings, yelling, swearing, messages that are disgusting, that group. And sometimes candidates looking for votes, go down and pander to that group instead of taking a stand and saying, I'm not going to allow myself to participate with that. I don't want to be friends with those people. If they don't vote for me, I'll live. And so we're seeing a little bit of that in Brantford. In East Haven, you're seeing that too. So, basically everybody's for Tweed. This group gets going. Suddenly we have press releases from the mayor and press releases from Joe Zullo, the state rep, saying, wait a minute, this isn't a done deal, or we're going to do our due diligence. I cannot see an intelligent elected official not voting to expand Tweed. The benefits for East Haven are significant. The area that they're putting the access is largely a commercial area. It's not residential. And there'll be some, listen, there's always going to be some people that say it's louder, but I know people who are really right next to Robinson Aviation. Planes take off all the time. They say they don't even hear it. Like, you just get used to it. It's like living next to a train. Like, over time, you just don't hear it anymore. That's usually the case. So that's what's happening here. So Sean has to take care of that. And the elected officials, because there's a first selectman race in East Haven, it's going to be a large part of the discussion. I don't know that it should be. I think overwhelmingly, everyone I've talked to from East Haven was completely fine with the expansion. I think you're just going to have a small group of people who are loud, and often the loudest people in the room. We as citizens and elected officials need to understand that voice is not necessarily representative of the way the people really feel in the area. And so I think we all benefit, East Haven, as well as Brantford, Guilford, all the towns around it, by the expansion of Tweed. I think Sean's done a good job. Let's hope he can continue that moving forward. Okay, so we'll prepare for a meatball taste-off. We'll put a poll up pretty soon. That being said, I hope everyone has a great weekend. We know bad weather is on the way. We know come Sunday night, Monday, it looks pretty bad. So we'll try to do our best to be live on Monday. We may be around town covering a storm, meeting with the first selectman, getting some updates. So if there's any questions, anybody needs help, let us know. We'll do the best we can to help out there. Guys, have a great weekend, and I will talk to you on Monday at 4 o'clock.